I had worked as a forest ranger in Oregon for nearly 6 years, and most of my shifts were routine. Lost hikers, broken fences, and the occasional black bear wandering too close to campgrounds. Nothing ever felt truly dangerous until I was assigned to patrol an abandoned trail that locals refused to use after sunset. According to old reports, several hikers had complained about hearing someone whistling deep in the trees. Every search ended the same way. Nobody was ever found. I didn't believe the stories. Just before dusk, I started hiking the trail. Everything seemed normal until I heard a slow whistle somewhere ahead. It sounded like someone trying to get my attention. I called out, expecting another hiker. No one answered. A few minutes later, the whistle came again. This time, it was behind me. I turned around immediately, but the trail was empty. The forest had gone completely silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. I radioed my location, but all I heard was static. As I continued walking, the whistle grew closer with every step. It never sounded rushed. It was calm, patient, almost playful. Then I noticed fresh boot prints in the mud. They matched my own boots. Every footprint I had left behind was now also appearing several feet ahead of me, as if someone had walked the trail before I did. My flashlight began to flicker. The whistling stopped. For several seconds, the woods were completely still. Then a voice whispered from the darkness, "You're finally here." I ran without looking back. When I reached the ranger station, I checked the GPS tracker we all carried during patrols. According to the recorded route, I had never entered that trail. The device showed me standing outside the entrance for the entire tour shift, yet my boots were still covered in fresh mud from somewhere deep inside the forest. I had been a forest ranger in northern Washington for almost 9 years when I was assigned to inspect an old fire watchtower that had been closed for over a decade. The tower sat on the highest ridge in the park, miles from the nearest trail, and no one was supposed to be there. My job was simple: check the structure, photograph any damage, lock it up before sunset. The climb took nearly 3 hours. By the time I reached the top, the tower looked exactly as I expected weathered wood, broken windows, and a rusty padlock still hanging on the door. The strange part was that the lock had never been opened, yet someone had swept the floor inside. There wasn't a single layer of dust. A metal coffee mug sat on the table, still warm to the touch. I searched every corner of the tower, but it was empty. Thinking another ranger had stopped by earlier, I radioed the station. No one answered, only static. As the sun began to disappear behind the mountains, I packed my gear and started hiking back. About 20 minutes later, I looked over my shoulder. The watchtower light was on. A bright yellow glow poured through the broken windows. I stopped. There was no electricity connected to that tower anymore. I convinced myself it had to be the sunset reflecting through the glass. Then I saw a figure standing in the top window. It didn't move. It simply watched me. I raised my binoculars for a better look. The window was empty. Lowering them again, the figure was back, still staring. I hurried down the trail without looking back. The next morning, I returned with 2 senior rangers. The tower door was still locked with the same rusted padlock. Nothing inside had changed, except for one thing. On the dusty visitor log, beneath the last entry from 2013, someone had written my full name, along with the words, "See you again tonight." I had worked as a forest ranger in Colorado for 5 years when I received a report about an illegal campfire deep inside a protected area. Campfires were strictly forbidden there because of the wildfire risk, especially during the dry season. I hiked nearly 4 miles before I saw the glow. A small campfire burned in the middle of a clearing, but there was no tent, no backpack, no food, no signs that anyone had been there. I called out several times, nothing. Assuming the campers had wandered off, I poured water over the flames. The fire hissed and disappeared. Satisfied, I continued my patrol. Less than 10 minutes later, I noticed the same orange glow through the trees. I walked toward it. It was the same clearing, the same campfire, burning exactly as before. This time, I buried it with dirt until every ember was covered. Then I left. Another 10 minutes passed. The glow returned. I froze. It couldn't be possible. I checked my GPS. I was moving in a straight line, nowhere near the clearing I had left behind. Yet somehow, I was standing in front of the same fire again. The flames suddenly grew taller, without any wind. A chair slowly rocked beside the fire. It had been empty only seconds earlier. Then I heard footsteps circling behind me. Slow, heavy, always staying just outside my flashlight beam. I spun around again and again, but saw nothing. The footsteps stopped. A deep voice broke the silence. "You keep putting it out." I couldn't tell where the voice came from. Then it finished the sentence. "So who keeps lighting it?" Every instinct told me to run. I didn't stop until I reached my truck. The next morning, a team searched the clearing. There was no fire, no chair, no footprints, just a black circle of burned earth. Park records later revealed that decades earlier, A ranger had disappeared while trying to extinguish an illegal campfire in that exact location. His body was never found. I had spent nearly 7 years working as a forest ranger in Northern California, and I knew every marked trail in the park by heart. So when a family reported seeing a narrow hiking path that wasn't on any map, I assumed they had simply wandered onto an old logging road. The next morning, I went to investigate. Sure enough, there was a trail where none should have been. The ground looked freshly cleared, and broken branches lined both sides, as if hundreds of people had walked there recently. Curious, I followed it. After 20 minutes, I realized something was wrong. The trees had become unusually tall, blocking almost all the sunlight. The air felt cold. Even stranger, the trail behind me had disappeared. There was only thick forest where I had entered. I checked my GPS. The screen displayed a single message: no signal. Thinking the device had failed, I marked a nearby tree with my knife and continued searching for a way back. 10 minutes later, I reached another tree. It had the same fresh knife mark. I wasn't walking in circles. It was the exact tree. Then I heard footsteps ahead. Relieved, I called out. A man wearing an old ranger uniform slowly stepped onto the trail. His badge was rusted. His clothes looked decades old. He stared at me without blinking. Finally, he spoke. "You weren't supposed to find this trail." I took one step toward him. He pointed behind me. "The exit. He's leaving." I turned around for only a second. When I looked back, he was gone. So was the trail. I was standing in the middle of untouched forest. After hours of searching, I finally found my way back to the main road. Later that evening, I searched the park archives. A photograph from 1978 showed a missing ranger during his final patrol. He was wearing the same uniform, the same badge, and he had vanished while investigating reports of a trail that wasn't on the map. I had been a forest ranger in Wyoming for almost 10 years when I was assigned to patrol a remote section of the park that rarely saw visitors. The only way to stay in contact with the station was through our handheld radio, since there was no cell service anywhere in the area. Around sunset, I received a transmission. "Unit 12, do you copy?" It sounded like another ranger. I answered immediately. No reply. A few seconds later, the voice returned. "I'm at marker 18. I need assistance." I checked my map. Marker 18 was only a 15-minute hike away. When I arrived, the area was completely empty. No footprints, no vehicle, no signs that anyone had ever been there. I radioed dispatch to ask if another ranger had been working nearby. The dispatcher sounded confused. "No one else is assigned to your zone." As I turned to leave, my radio crackled again. This time, the voice sounded frightened. "Don't move." I froze. "Something is standing behind you." Every instinct told me to look. Instead, I slowly asked, "Who is this?" There was a long silence. Then the voice answered, "It's you." My blood ran cold. The voice wasn't just similar to mine anymore. It was identical. It repeated my breathing, my pauses, even the nervous shake in my voice. Then it whispered, "Turn around." I ran without looking back. The radio continued calling my name the entire way to the ranger station. That night, the communications supervisor checked the recordings. The transmission had come from my own radio. At exactly the same time I was speaking, there had never been another signal, only mine. The next morning, another ranger searched marker 18. He found my boot prints ending in the middle of the trail. There were no return footprints, yet somehow, I had made it safely back to the station.